Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. I'm joined by Jessica Black today. We're going to be delving into the fallout of the weekend, really. Remember this time last week, Jess was telling us Arsenal's season was over. They would lose to Villa. It was all dead and buried. But has the fear factor arrived? City, since beating Arsenal, have drawn 2 games on the bounce and winning positions. We're going to delve into that in more detail. We're looking at Declan Rice to Arsenal and the story surrounding that. Will Graham Potter be sacked, or should he be sacked? Maybe a bigger question. And of course, we're going to look ahead tonight. Manchester United versus Barcelona and all that jazz. But without further ado, welcome back to the show. Jess, how are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. How are you?
I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to Man United Barcelona later. I cannot lie. I feel we're going to get into it later, but I feel very confident. Doesn't mean I disrespect Barca, but I feel confident in my team. I love my club at the moment, and yeah, very, very excited about the upcoming games and we're almost in March, which basically means we're in the final straight of the season, the business end of the season. Man, that means busy times for us at the football terrace as well. So I can't complain. And you must be feeling better because, I mean, this time last week, you pretty much have written off everything to do with football. You know, you were fuming. You lost the game. Party was out. The world looked like it was over.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wrote off the City game. I thought the City game was going to be the nail in the coffin if we didn't win, because I backed, I thought Manchester City, who, forgive me, but have been the best team in England for who knows how long. So I just thought that they would, be able to, get their stuff together from that moment on, and we would crumble a little bit. And, the team proved me wrong. And I said that in the match reaction, that I didn't know if they could do it or not, because I haven't seen this team do it before. And despite everybody bringing up these different scenarios where we've done it before, we really haven't. And so, yeah, I think that, we're in a much better place now. We've seen the team rebound from a difficult position. And so you can pull on that in the future and say, we've done it before. And so, yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, and we're going to move on to Arsenal a little bit later, so don't you worry about that, people. I wanted to start off, though, with Chelsea today, because there were reports that Poch was approached and that he turned the club down. And, of course, because he turns the club down, most Chelsea fans are like, right, this is fans being fans. It's like, how do we approach this news? Are we encouraged to thinking of sacking him, or do we deny it because we've been rejected by Mauricio Pochettino? And, of course, they resoundingly rejected it. Matt Law today has confirmed that the club didn't approach Mauricio Pochettino. But forget Chelsea fans for a minute. Do you believe that? Do you believe all is well at Chelsea and that there is no consideration by the board to sack Graham Potter right now?
Do I think all is well at Chelsea? No, I feel like you can most of the time see what's going on with the club by what's going on the pitch. So reading between the lines, you can kind of see that it's not going maybe the way that they anticipated it going. And after the January window, especially, I felt like there was a big kind of song and dance from Chelsea and the media to really focus in on the January signings and how much money they spent and how great these players are and all of that. And there's no denying that they picked up some great players in the window. But from there, then it's about putting those pieces together and putting it, like, making sure that everything works on the pitch. And when it came to, the window kind of dying down and then everything going to the pitch, then people started focusing on that. And the reality check kind of hit that you can't just buy players and then everything just fits together. They have many players that have come from different regimes and different managers, and it's just not fitting right now. And so with the run that Graham Potter is on right now, which is abysmal, it's like two wins and something, like it's bad. It's relegation form. You have to think that a club of Chelsea's stature are going to be looking at alternative options. When Arteta went through several different bad runs, did I really believe the PR that was like, they're not looking at anybody and they're fully behind Mikel? No, because any decent club will be looking at their alternative options. So No, I do think that Chelsea have looked, because Potter hasn't looked up to it, and they have to make a decision whether they're going to back this manager because they believe in him so much and back him through the play, because the players are going through their player power moment now, where they're going to the media and leaking things. And Arteta went through that with Ozil doing it. We had a bombing issues. This happens when the older players or players that have been there are feeling like they're being phased out. They start to go to the media and leak things. I think even Manchester United had some of that last season as well. So that the club have to decide whether or not Potter is actually really their guy and either back him through this or sack him. You can't sit in between. But I have my kind of feeling around Potter that he doesn't really have maybe the aura. He doesn't have the confidence, to really do the big club thing. He was kind of like really good where he was, and now he's kind of getting swallowed up by the moment. And yeah, I think it could be really difficult for them moving forward. They put a lot of money forward. They spent a lot of money on him, and it doesn't look like it's coming together cohesively at all.
Yeah, listen, I agree with everything you've said there, by and large. And I think that Chelsea fans, they're just following in the same suit as I've called out so many fan bases for doing. They're believing the PR. And when I say believing the PR, there's no smoke without fire. Graham Bailey, he may not be seen on Twitter as a tier one. But do you know what's really interesting about the social media tiering system that we've given journalists? When you speak to journalists privately, they laugh at it because they see, for instance, Duncan Castles is seen as an horrible journalist on social media, but every journalist in the industry looks at him as a god, as an absolute stellar. He just doesn't care about being right when he gives you a transfer rumor, in the sense of if he hears it and he hears it from someone he trusts, he goes, I've heard Joe Bloggs is looking at X, Y, and Z. He doesn't care whether it comes to fruition, where other journalists are like, well, I'm not going to even mention that story until it's very close to happening so that there's no tweet. So the only thing I've ever mentioned about it is it being positive, and then it happens and I look like I know more. Football journalists don't care about being accurate or being the first when it comes to transfers. Transfer journalists do, and there's a fundamental difference between the two of those individuals. And Graham Bailey is a very good football journalist. He's very well respected in the industry. He isn't just going to make up a lie, because he would damage all his credibility with so many camps. For me, it's got out, it's got to him, he's printed it. And I don't think Poch wants to go Chelsea right now. And that isn't a dig at Chelsea per se. They're a mess right now. Do I want to go there if I don't have complete control? There's a story that came out from the sort of the tier one Chelsea's that the board made a joint decision with the manager to not pick Aubameyang for the last 3 Premier League games. What are the board doing? Why are the board involved with picking teams? Why are the board involved with anything to do with the squad, registering of players? That is not their job. That is for the manager to do, or the head coach in Graham Potter. There are
Graham
problems.
Potter's not even picking the players, though, Terry. I mean, that's obvious, isn't it? That they've decided that they're doing something, and this feels very similar to me as like when we had Raul and Ivan Gazidis, and they decided that they wanted to run things, they wanted to bring in the players, they had their recruitment, and Unai Emery just had to deal with it. You can't operate like that. The manager has to have some say, and I think they should have more of the say than anybody else in terms of the players that they want. It's like they want a little puppet.
No, I agree. He's not in control. He's not in control, and that's why Poch is going to say no. And until they change their stance, I don't think a big manager is going to say yes, because I just don't believe Potter has any real say, any real sway. And the fact that they are releasing press statements minutes after they lose games tells me it's PR. And Top Dog here says Fab and Matt Law literally just shut down that news. Get there are other journalists, but I doubt it. But this is the point, Top Dog. In my opinion, Matt Law and Fabrizio have been told by Chelsea it's not true, and Chelsea are going to deny it until it happens. I'm not saying Matt Law and Fabrizio Romano are wrong. They're not wrong or lying. They're telling you what they've been told. But this is where football fans have got to cut through the BS, in my opinion, and go, well, what's more likely? A manager winning, 3 of 20 games, can't get a team to work. What's more likely, that Chelsea are not looking at an alternative, or are completely backing Graham Potter. In my opinion, they're going to be looking at an alternative. And I even believe this about Arsenal. As much as they stuck with Arteta, I believe in some of the sticky moments, they would have started some type of process of at least having a conversation and saying, if he doesn't turn this round, who would we look to? Because you have to do that in terms of planning. So, Top Dog, I'm not questioning what journalists are saying that it isn't true. Chelsea will come out and say it's not true. Those journalists will repeat what they say. But I don't need a weatherman to tell me when it's raining outside. I don't need a journalist to tell me that Chelsea are thinking about sacking this guy. I believe they are, based on the swiftness of their publishing of articles. As soon as they don't win a game, straight away, certain journalists with big connections at the club aren't going to sack him. They've just told us they're fully behind him. For me, I smell bullshit. The old expression, I don't even know whose quote this is, but one doth protest too much, methinks. And it must be Shakespeare. I think it's Shakespeare. But that's what it sounds like to me. And I just think to myself that Chelsea fans also, by the way, shouldn't be celebrating this. You guys all want him sacked, but yet you're kind of backing the PR that you're not trying to sack him. It's very weird. It's very weird behavior going on at Chelsea right now. What do you want, him out or in? I don't get it.
What's interesting is like in our group chat, Anita said something about like a club that just won the Champions League 2 seasons ago should not have a manager like Graham Potter or something like that. Or like somebody said it. And I was just like, that's like really interesting, because I do feel like there's an element of they've almost went too low with Potter, and they probably could have gotten somebody a little bit. They didn't have to go for like a Zidane or something like that. Zidane. I know I'm going to get killed for calling him Zidane. Oh my gosh. Zidane, they could have went for, you don't have to go that far, but you didn't have to go all the way down to Potter. Do you know what I mean? And I think that step down, that going that low is probably just shaking things up a little bit too much. What do you think?
No, listen, I think you're right. Listen, I backed it when it first went in, and I was talking, give it time, give it time, give it time. And this weekend, I had an epiphany. I had a moment where I just went, I've been wrong. And I had to hold my hands up. I had to be a man and say, I'm wrong to be sitting here telling Chelsea fans to back Potter. They need him to go. He isn't right for them. And you said this at home to me many, many months ago now. Why is he cutting his hair like that and dressing like that? That's like someone playing up. And ever since you've said that, it's been in the back of my mind of, be yourself. I don't change how I dress, how I talk, how I behave, no matter who I'm around. I'm obviously more polite in front of certain people, more professional in certain environments, but I am the same person on and off camera. You'll know this. My laugh don't change. But Graham Potter got the Chelsea job and he became a different man. And I think he lost credibility through that. And there's a report this morning about this that said the players don't dislike the man. And I'm like, no, they won't, because he's not a bad man. But the fact that people are even saying, oh, they don't dislike the man, that tells you they don't respect the person. That sort of, when you don't think a player is very good, but you go, oh, but he works hard, you're saying he's shit at football. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if your first comment is he works hard, that means he's not very good technically. And it's the same with Potter. Potter's a nice guy. He's a good coach, but he is not the manager of a top 6 club. Managing a top 6 club is a different job to being a good coach. Brendan Rodgers is a brilliant coach. He's an awful manager. And there's a fundamental difference between those two jobs. And Graham Potter, he's in a big hole and he's got to try and dig himself out. And the problem is he doesn't have a big enough shovel. He's in absolute trouble. They need to move him on. They need to bring in somebody with greater ability, and a greater repertoire, a better CV, who can just galvanize that team and who's going to demand respect the second he walks through the room. And it isn't Graham Potter. And I think Chelsea fans today listen to the story that Chelsea are saying they're not sacking him. But I guarantee them in the next 3 or 4 games, if you guys aren't winning and starting to look better, he'll be gone. And then I'll be saying, who, there it is. Bookmark. Sorry, someone here says bookmark, Terry. When Potter starts succeeding at Chelsea, you will apologize. Well, I will if I'm wrong. Again, you can't banter me with being wrong. I'm going to say this with chest. I'm one of the only content creators out there. If I get something wrong, go, yep, I was wrong, and I move on. I never try to twist it. I never try to make it sound like I was right all along. There's an Arsenal guy I know that hates Odegaard. And then when Odegaard started playing well, he didn't say, shit, I was wrong that Odegaard was good. He just said, actually, Odegaard started doing exactly what I said, therefore I was right. I never do that, ever. So, yeah, if I'm wrong, I'm not going to cry about it, my friend. Cedric here says seaside bucket and shovel. We say bucket and spade. We say, but yeah, I hear you, bro. This is Terry. Bigamy isn't legal in the UK. Oh, that's good because I ain't married, bruv. But there we go. Terry, you do. Was it gone? Oh, I want to read that one. It was a good one. Was it gone? You do chat some bollocks. Well, you say that, but again, that's not an argument. But remember this: if you're ever in a confrontation with someone, you come up with a point, and their response is you chat shit. That means you've won the argument because they can't respond. Remember that. Chelsea. Sorry, let me just go through these. Yeah, Chelsea should first have a player cult. Potter is struggling, but Chelsea have been a mess for longer than he's been here. Just think what a couple of toxic players can do to a squad is what Martinez says here.
Can I jump in there? Because that was my point. Is that even though I don't think Potter has the aura and he doesn't have it, he doesn't. But at the same time, like, they have to stick with him, I think. Like, you're saying that they should get rid. I think they should stick with him and get rid. Because no matter what, I think some players are showing who they actually are. And from my perspective, like, if you have toxic players, like, you got to get rid of them. And I think if you remove some of them, maybe Potter can gain a little bit of control of the dressing room. They may have to start a little bit lower. They may not make any sort of Europe. But I don't think they should sack Potter. I think they should get rid of players first and then see if he can't still work with them once some of those toxic guys are out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know where you're coming from, and I think it's a fair shout, and maybe that's a solution. I just don't think he'll. I just don't think he's going to work personally. Todd here says, "What does Potter ball bring? Last 2 full seasons with Brighton, a league played, league games played. Sorry, some of this is. Do you know what happens? Sometimes there's words missing from you guys, and then I think it's my dyslexia, so I start overthinking. With Brighton in the league, played 82 total goals. Thomas Tuchel last full season 76 goals. Yeah, listen, I think the biggest mistake Chelsea have made, and a lot of us fell for this, is they turned on Thomas Tuchel far too quickly, in my opinion. They should have stuck with him. They should have done that. But there we go. The super chats come for about. If you're super chatting about things other than Chelsea, we'll save those super chats for later, people. This here from iTest says he's tactically inept. What's getting rid of a few players going to do is what iTest says there. We'll see. Terry bums Arsenal. If this was any other club in this position, there wouldn't be much praise as there is now. What as Arsenal? Or what like when like 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 seasons now, when I was calling Liverpool the best team in the world. My arch enemies, the team I despise the most in the world. You're wrong, Awaz. You're talking Waz, Awaz. You literally are, bruv. You're talking Waz, Awaz. That's what we're going to call you, Waz, Awaz. Awaz who talks Waz on the terrace. You're lying because I've praised bigger rivals of mine than Arsenal many times on the terrace. So you better hope your parents ain't watching. They might adopt you after such a stupid comment on the internet, bruv. I hope that's not your real name and no one recognizes you, bro. Come on now. Chelsea OG here says Potter. Harry Potter or Graham Potter? Let me know, bro. Let me know. Yeah, Gary, I don't know what the guy just comes on here and people just say lies on here all the time. Now, I'm glad you found it funny, bro. Chelsea need to trim the squad. The board needs to stay out of the team selections, is what Tony says. Yeah, I think we'd all agree. I think we all agree with that. Terry is just not biased. It's hard for people to understand that when you go against their own clubs. Yeah, I'm not biased. I tell you how I think and feel. Sometimes it will look biased. I'm not always going to be nice about my rivals' clubs. But there we go. I'm not ducking the Twitch chat at all, my friend. I can see it as well. There you go. But there, we'll see what happens with it. Moving on. Man United play tonight, Jay. Manchester United versus Barcelona. How do you see this one playing out?
I don't even know, to be honest. Like, I thought Barcelona to me were better than what I thought they were going to be in the last game. And I know people are going to be like, but they're top of their league. They're top of their league. Like, I just didn't expect much I didn't expect for them to be able to cope with Man United in terms of like physicality and you know, I don't know what it's like. I was very surprised at how good they were, but then I was also surprised at how good Man United were. It was weird. Like both teams were impressive to me. So I think both teams are going to go at it today. But the difference is that like Man United did a really good job getting, you know, making sure that they really performed at, you know, Camp Nou, and now they get to go back to their place, and like Man United are so good at home. And that's going to be the difference to me, is that I think Barcelona will play well, but I think just like the fans and the feeling and the good feel good factor at Old Trafford will be a lot of the difference. And then also Barcelona have some key players out as well, that were there in the first leg. So as good as I thought Barcelona did, I think Man United will have too much for them at home. So I expect Man United to win, but I still expect it to be a close game. But yeah, both teams very good, very fun first leg. But I would expect Manchester United to go through. I always kind of have. I just, you know, Barcelona were much better than I thought. I know people, I get that doesn't make sense because they're top of their league, but maybe I just don't rate their league that high.
Look, I think it's such an interesting one this week because we've seen the English teams in the Champions League have done awful in this first leg. In the first legs, the English teams have done shocking in terms of results. Ironically, I actually thought the best performing English team in the last round was actually Chelsea. Of everybody, I think Chelsea were the better performing team. You could argue City because City only drew, they didn't lose. But expectations versus, you know, coupled with the lead in the first half, they dominated, then not winning. The irony is Chelsea, you would probably expect to do the worst, but they actually did okay, and I think they'll beat Dortmund at home. After everything I've just said about Potter, I still think they'll beat Dortmund at home. But the English teams have been awful in the Champions League, and I think that you look at Barca, who are better than Real Madrid this year. There was an expectation, and I remember that, you know, the top 6 group chat, the Terrace group chat, all United rival fans in there. Come on, Barca, you're going to smash and humble Man United tonight. And we were nothing short, absolutely nothing short of brilliant away at the Camp Nou. Now, we didn't win, so result-wise, it wasn't perfect, but performance, United fans are giddy and excited. And I think we saw like an uplift instantly with Casemiro returning. You saw a freshness in him through missing those league games through suspension. And tonight, you know, I would expect Casemiro and Sabitzer to start this game. That as a combination in the middle. We didn't even get to see Sabitzer in the last match. I think that'll be an exciting combination. Man United are looking brilliant right now. And as good as Barcelona were, and they were good in spells in that game, it's the best performance I've seen against Barcelona from Man United since 2008. And we've played them a number of times since, and we've been nowhere near them. Nowhere near them. And I get they're not as good. They're not as good as they were back in 09, but nor are we. We're not the same. We're nowhere near. That was a Man United team that did a three-peat of Premier Leagues, which no other club has ever done. And we couldn't touch them. And that was a much better Man United than we are now. So I kind of look at it from the perspective of Barca are better than I maybe thought. They're dangerous. I'm not writing them off tonight. I'm not saying they can't win. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to win. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. But I do believe Man United will beat Barcelona tonight. And I think it's going to be another beautiful gateway moment for us where more belief strides into that dressing room. And it's key because we are on the edge of a title race. We are in a title push, to coin the phrase. And we're just behind the cities and just behind Arsenal right now. But the growth of this team inside 12 months, in my opinion, has been nothing short of spectacular. And there's so many things to kind of factor into this. I keep getting called out for people saying, but you wanted Rashford gone, Terry. And I've actually found the clip and I'm going to release it in another video soon. Well, I literally state exactly what we've done. So this isn't me doing I'm not going to name the Arsenal fan who did the whole, oh, I didn't change my stance on Odegaard. He just changed to be more like I wanted. I'm not going to do that. I literally said in a video in the summer that I'm scared for Man United's future if we just give Rashford a new deal. What we should do is say to him, we want you to stay. We think you're going to be brilliant, but you've got to get back to that level of form first. Then you can come back in. Then we're going to come back to the table with an offer for you. We've done exactly what I wanted, not because of Rashford. And I actually said in the video, this isn't about Rashford per se. This is about the club progressing. those actions there, in my opinion, have been more important than fitness, team structure, working hard, tactics, and new signings. The way that Rashford's contract situation, Maguire's dropping, and getting Ronaldo out the club, those three scenarios are why Manchester United are fighting on all four fronts, why Man United are in a Carabao Cup final, why we have an opportunity to, look, we're only going to progress to the last 16 if we win today, but knocking out a team like Barcelona in a knockout game of any European competition is a huge moment for us, because since Fergie, we haven't knocked, we knocked PSG out, and you could argue that was a great moment, but it was kind of against the run of play. We weren't the better team. And by the way, everyone knocks PSG out at some point in the Champions League. They always do it. And I'm not taking nothing away from that, but we haven't been the better team over two legs against a big club in Europe for a long time. I can't remember the last time we did it, if I'm being honest with you. So these are big moments for us, and we're moving in the right direction. I'm proud of what the team is doing. I'm ecstatic for Marcus Rashford. He is on form, the best attacker in world football right now, without a shadow of a doubt. And I don't believe he's going to dip from this form massively over the next 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think he'll score at the rate he is right now, which is at record-breaking levels. But I still think he's going to be a 40 to 50 GA a year player. That's how many goal contributions he's going to get. He's back to his absolute best. And yeah, I'm excited about tonight for so many reasons, especially ahead of the Carabao Cup final, because I want to win that desperately on Sunday so we can get the monkey off of Ten Hag's back around, the club's had no trophy in 5 to 6 years. It ends there, and then we move on and we build from that position. And, next year especially, we go and win that Premier League title. And I think all what we're doing now is in the build-up and the process to challenging for that Premier League next year and winning it. And who knows, if we get a bit of lady luck go our way and maybe another wobble from Arsenal, another wobble from City in the league, we could even challenge this year. I'm not counting my chickens on that one. But yeah, I'm very excited about tonight for so many reasons, not just the game, but the knock-on effect and the kind of domino effect that's going to come from this, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a lot, but I get that you guys are excited. And I would be too. After the last couple of years that you guys have had. So yeah, I think you beat Barcelona, you win the Carabao Cup, and I get that you want to have like a little step in between a title challenge and there's no title push. You're either challenging or you're not. And I think you guys are, so good for Man United. I'm not, honestly, for me, like, I don't like seeing it. I'd rather see you guys where you guys were last season, but, well done. And, I said when Ten Hag came in that I wanted him at Arsenal before, because I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great manager. He's doing a good job with the squad. So yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. And you go from there.
Absolutely. And I want to play a video for the viewers, because I think this is an important thing to listen to. This is an extract with Rio and Bruno. Take a little listen to this.
Players, including yourself, talk a little bit like this in seasons gone by. But I feel something different, and you're closer now, it feels. How kind of important has the manager been in that? What's he done to change the way things are at the club at the minute?
No, as I said, I think if he first arrived, I knew we went on tour, and the training sessions that we had here after that and everything, it demands. It demands from people, or you do it or you out. You don't play, And so everyone was a little bit like in the beginning, you will do that or not? If a big player doesn't do what he wants, you will put him apart or not? And he did it. He did it many times. He did it with Cristiano. He did it with Jadon. He did it. Marcos also. In the big moments, like Marcos was in probably the best form against Wolves. he did something wrong. Managers just put him out, and everyone.
And the reason I pull on that, Jay, I know you were looking down. I'm sure you were listening. While that was going on, but for me, these are key components when it comes to the progression of Man United, because everyone will talk about tactics and training and improving players, and everybody seems to look at it, for me, very basically on just making them better footballers. But it is about discipline, and it is about controlling that dressing room. And he's done a brilliant job in terms of doing that, the manager. But it's also been the club allowing him to. And this is where I felt a bit sorry for Jose's and LVG's is that they weren't given that control. And we know this because when Jose Mourinho wanted to get rid of Martial and get rid of Paul Pogba, he was told, no, this manager has said, I'm dropping our star striker today. Been allowed to do it. I'm dropping the captain and I want you to work towards selling him. Been done. The guy's been putting a left back in centre back positions over the captain and been allowed to do it. Ronaldo kicked up a fuss. And I personally think there was a part of Ronaldo that thought, one, that I could get out here, but two, maybe the Glazers will stick by me until the manager knows he's got to play me. I think he was a double-edged sword for Ronaldo. I either get to leave or I get back in the first team as I want. So for me, I have to thank the people now running the club for allowing the manager to have power and control, because for 10 years, I've sat there and banged my head against a brick wall. Banged my head against a brick wall and said to people, forget a manager who's got good tactics. If he doesn't have control over a dressing room and the power over a dressing room, he will foul. And now we're seeing what's happening with Graham Potter at Chelsea when he hasn't got full control. And you think that we'd be achieving this now if the manager would have been overruled and told you can't drop Rashford? There's a new deal for him. You can't drop the captain. He's got to play. You think we'd be doing this if Ronaldo was still in our starting lineup and the manager was overruled? Do you think any other player? Because you listen to what Bruno said there. When he first came in with these rules and standards, we all thought, is he really going to go through with this? And then he did. Imagine if the board didn't allow Ten Hag to do it, the players wouldn't fucking listen to him. So this should be a wake-up call for every single football fan. Every single football fan out there, that if you don't give your manager complete control and power, doesn't matter how good they are, they fail. And we've seen that because LVG and Jose failed. And you can look at the Ollies of this world and go, yeah, he just wasn't a good enough manager. And that's the problem, because he wasn't a good enough coach. People go, no, that's the problem. But LVG and Jose were, and they fouled as well. And I'm so happy to hear that from Bruno today, because that for me was the 21-minute interview of Rio. That should be the biggest takeaway for anybody, that we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. For everybody that's like, are you in a cupboard? No, this is a closet, you guys. Like, I'm in a normal spot. I'm not being held kidnapped or anything like that. Don't worry. Like, I'm safe. But yeah, like, I would say this, and like, I know people don't like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do think, you know, not that I want to preface this by saying I don't think Man United have copied Arsenal. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think Arsenal sticking with Arteta and giving him a lot of freedom has shown a lot of big clubs that you can do it. And to get away from this whole like sacking, hiring, sacking, not giving them any, you know, freedom, not putting their trust into the right guy. And I think it also is about the right person at the right time too. Like, Man United cannot have gotten it wrong again and again and again and again and again. Like, they had to get it right at a certain point. And they found a manager that they actually believed in, perfect fit for them. And, you know, you can't look away from the fact that, like, I'm not saying it's unprecedented, but it's been I haven't really seen a lot of teams stick with a manager through ups and downs, give them a lot of power in a long time. And I think Arsenal doing it, Man United looking kind of doing it as well, but in a different way. I think, you know, that's the way to do things. But for the right guy, right manager. Ten Hag's perfect manager for Manchester United, you know?
I think it's about sticking with the manager, but it's about giving that manager power and control. Because if they'd have stuck with Arteta, but not giving him control, it wouldn't have worked. And I think that sticking with the manager is a fine way to go, but you have to give power and control to that manager. And I remember saying this on a stream once to all the Ollie outers, and they thought it was defense of Ollie, and they just didn't want to listen. And it works through all businesses. If you're the manager of any business, the manager of any company, you're not the owner, but you're the manager, but you have less power than your staff, you can't control them. And that's the biggest mistake Man United made. You said it earlier with Raul and Gazidis. When they were controlling things, how are you ever going to win? Because the manager's not in control. So the players don't need to listen to the manager. As long as they're familiar with the board, or they bring in money, or they're good commercially, or their agent's got a good relationship with those individuals, the manager becomes obsolete. And I think that's what's really key for us. But you mentioned their Arsenal. You know, I wasn't Ollie in. I turned around and said I didn't want him sacked until I knew that we were going to run the club properly, because there'd be no point. That was exactly my point that I said many, many, many times. But this tweet got put out yesterday, and I wanted to run this tweet by you, Jay. So this tweet here says, Manchester United, Arsenal and Man City have been playing against low blocks every single game. Man United are currently having success as opponents think they can beat them and get countered. Ten Hag's challenge will be unlocking defenses once United are respected. So rivals here kind of discrediting Manchester United to a degree and sort of essentially stating that United are only winning games because we're not respected and nobody's fearful of us. Do you believe there is truth in this personally?
That's not really how I read it. The way that I read it was maybe the little part where he's saying that, Manchester United are enjoying success makes it like, if you just take that away, I kind of do feel like you have to look at the next challenge, and the next challenge will be when teams decide, you know what, we're not going to give them space in behind. That will change things, and unlocking 12, 11 man behind the ball is more difficult. Now, do I say that that's the only reason why Man United are where they are? No, I don't agree with that. I'm not sure if that's what that tweet is saying, but if that's how it's being interpreted, that's not true. Like, there's more to it. Obviously, cultural change, the tactics have been spot on, bringing in the right players, the right foundation, turning around certain players, like Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Fred has been pretty good and stuff like that. Those things, and Rashford, that doesn't have anything to do with low blocks and stuff like that. But I do believe that, and we've spoken about this as well, like just you and I, that I do think that once teams decide, you know what, we can't play with them, so let's just not play at all and sit behind the ball, it does present a different issue, and you have to learn how to do it. I don't know if you feel like you guys have come up against some low blocks. Maybe you guys have, but that nasty low block that Everton put up against us, the Brentford one, that's another level, but you guys are enjoying success because you just have good players that play good football with a good manager. It doesn't have anything to do with the low blocks.
I mean, again, everyone will interpret that tweet differently. For me, it was the end, that the challenge will come when unlocking defenses once United are respected, essentially saying that no one's respecting us out on the pitch. Ironically, I view it the other way. If you're just attacking us and you're not scared of us, that's a disrespect because you're going to get slapped. It's a disrespect, as opposed to that's how I kind of view it. But I thought it was a way of undermining what Man United are doing. It's a way of saying, yeah, you're only good now, but eventually teams will sit back in a low block and you won't win. The problem is, the problem comes from this guy obviously doesn't. And we get this a lot on the Terrace, where people will come on and go, well, in fairness, I don't really watch many of Joe Bloggs' games. So they'll mention a team, they'll slag a team off and go, yeah, but I don't watch all their games. So it becomes a very difficult thing for them to actually comment on. And I just sort of saw the tweet, and then I went back through Man United's just Premier League fixtures. I forget the cups because we played a lot of small teams in the cups. And I thought to myself, Forest didn't. I just went just from. We'll just do it from November onwards. So in November, Villa did to us what they did to you. They just caught us. They scored 3 goals in the first half. We couldn't get back into the game. They deserved to beat us. But Fulham, absorbed us and countered. That's all they tried to do. We then played Nottingham Forest at home. They weren't gun-ho and attacking. We were away at Wolves. That was a hard-fought game. We watched that match together. Rashford came on from the bench and scored the winner. But we were struggling. We were struggling to convert chances, and they were hard to break down. But we won. We played Bournemouth again. They weren't all guns blazing at Old Trafford. They sat back. They were hard to break down. We then played City, so that's a top 6 game. We'll wipe that off. Palace, we drew with. We did break their low block down. We just didn't convert the chances on that day. Again, we watched that game together. We played Arsenal, so that's a top 6 clash. We'll write that off. We then went up against Palace. They were hard again. But we went 2-0 up in that game. We were unlocking them left, right, and centre. And then Casemiro got sent off. We then played Leeds, who scored in the opening minute from a thunderbolt. And then then they did the same at the beginning of the second half. But then we unlocked their low block and drew the game. And we should have won it. We had the chances to. We just didn't convert. Away against Leeds, they attacked us and they should have won the game, but we held on and we beat them. And then Leicester attacked, but their attacks were counter-attacks. They'd win the ball back in the midfield, and then it was counters. You watched that game with me. We beat them 3-0, though. We eventually broke them down. So you just go back 3 or 4 months, and only once in that time, and I would say that's at home against Leeds, have we, and away to Palace, have we even dropped points? But the only reason we didn't win those games is because we didn't convert the chances we broke. So this guy doesn't even watch Man United. We've been up against low blocks this year. Maybe Arsenal's low blocks are a foot or two deeper, maybe a few yards deeper. We can see some data analysis on that. But if you've watched Man United this year, no, not every team's been gung-ho against us. Not every team has left wide open space for Rashford to run into. That's a nonsense. 3 of Rashford's goals have come through dribbling through the entire flank of a team. To dribble past an entire flank means they're all behind the ball. It's just crazy. Like, but this is what I am glad to see it, though. And the reason I say I'm glad to see it is because the fact that rivals are writing those tweets is similar to what I was talking about in the summer with Arsenal. Oh, you won't maintain this preseason form into the season. Once you get beat by a good team, you'll fall away. What are you going to do with an injury? What are you going to do against low blocks when teams respect you? All these things were being said about Arsenal. The irony is some Arsenal fans are now, they're just basically passing it on to Man United. Man United are on the way to being back. I love the salt from rivals. I love the doubt from rivals. And I'll just throw this last one out there. Just in the build-up to the World Cup, everybody said, but if Ronaldo goes, who's going to score your goals? United could be finished. This is what happens every single time. Casemiro's out for 3 games. How are you going to win? Done all right, haven't we? This Man United team will find a way. This Man United team will continue to get better because we're not what we were under Ollie. We're not what we were under Jose at OVG. This team is different. The feel-good factor is there. The manager's got control of this team, and I'm loving the saltiness from rivals. It is absolutely hilarious. I'm enjoying it, and please tweet more because you're going to look so foolish when we start lifting trophies. It's going to be unbelievable. Unbelievable. Plus, new owners coming in as well. It's going to be amazing. So keep the salt coming, people. We genuinely, as Man United fans, want it. We genuinely want it. We do. There's a super chat here that says, hot take, Marcus Rashford ain't that good. He's playing for a new contract. What's your thoughts on that, Jay?
No, I mean, Rashford's a good player, so I don't agree.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Sammy, maybe he's just playing for a new contract, but he was doing this 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. He just had one bad year, but there we go. This here says, when still players that you do not scout this what happened? Oh, when you sign players, the manager didn't scout. I think you talk about Graham Potter there. I think that's what you mean. Thank you. Cedric here says Rashford's total goals scored this season are more than Chelsea have scored in the league. That's a mad stat. Tony here says, let's go United and win tonight. I'm excited and looks like we are turning a corner. We just need the Glazers gone now. To complete the transformation. And KC here says, Barca have no Pedri, Gavi, Dembele, and a useless manager. We are screwed today. Roberto, Kesse in midfield need to concentrate on the league. Yeah, I do get where you're coming from when you say that, bro. But let's just I want to just have a quick look at this for a second because I want to be fair to you. You have got those players out, but Man United have got Eriksen out, Anthony out, Martial out, Donny van der Beek out. I mean, you've got 2 big players that we had Sabitzer missing for the last game as well. Now, we don't have a recognized number 9. Like, both teams have got holes in. You're still going to have playing tonight Koundé, Christensen. You're going to have De Jong, Kesse, Fati, Lewandowski, Rafinha. I don't think that's a good enough excuse, my bro, personally. And I don't think Xavi's a bad manager either. I don't think he's a useless manager. I think you're going over the top there. Harold here says, Rashi world class. United back to levels of 2021 season. Well, I hope not. I hope we can go beyond those levels and win. One of the things Bruno actually said in the interview is Rio put up his stats in terms of like what should have been your best season or your favorite season. And he said, I don't have a favorite season yet because we haven't won trophies. I fucking love that. Honestly, that kind of attitude is Man United because stats are great and they're useful and they show how good an individual player is. But the fact you've got a player saying, remember, this guy had a season where he scored more goals from midfield than any other player in English football history. And he's like, don't care, didn't win a trophy. Love that. That's the way it's got to be. Busquets is playing tonight as well. There you go, Busquets. I says, are you saying, Denzel's saying Anthony's back? I'm just going with who scored. They've got a list of who's out and who's not. I'm just reading theirs. Because again, I don't watch the press conferences or go on the Man United website. No proper Man United fan would. You'd never give any advertising revenue traffic to the Glazers, not until they're gone. But there we go. Score prediction tonight, Jess. What are you going to go with? And look up at the camera, please. You keep looking down. Keep looking at the camera. There's an audience. What's your score prediction for tonight?
2-1 United.
Okay. That's actually my prediction, 2-1 as well. I'm going to go 2-1 United as well. Viewers, what do you think? I want your predictions for tonight. And make sure you're hitting the like button as well for us, subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Kind of like my head now. It's like, okay, no, I'm not reading that one out. That's a weird one. Yes, Jess, look at the camera. Yeah, absolutely. It looks like you're not interested in what I'm saying. It looks like I'm boring you, Jess. Am I boring you?
No.
Am I boring?
No. No. First of all, I'm not looking at the camera on it. I'm looking down there because that's where my screen is. But yeah, sorry.
No, I know. When we were in Qatar, we went to a studio a few times, and there was a director that works for FIFA. And the amount of times in my ear and Jesse, it was like, "Why are you not smiling? You're not at a funeral. Look up at the camera." It's a hard thing to remember to do. To be fair, I'm just playing with it though. 4-0 Barca is what AJ thinks. I doubt it, my friend. I doubt it. Right. So Arsenal's. But before we go on to Arsenal's bounce back, I want to ask you about a big rumor that's gone around today. Declan Rice to Arsenal, reportedly, and I'm just reading it here, so I'm looking away from the screen. Reportedly has agreed personal terms with Arsenal to join in the summer on a £200,000 a week contract. How good a signing will Declan Rice be for Arsenal if you bring him in, Jay?
I don't know. I think. Well, first of all, if we got him, it would be big because he's our number one target. And so I think we've struggled to get number one targets over the line. So I think that in itself, also since there'll be multiple teams involved, I think just that in itself would show that Arsenal are moving in the right direction in terms of recruitment. But I think, Declan Rice is the type of player that can transform your midfield. I think right now we have one of the best midfield threes in the league. There's no way really at this point to dispel that. And we were really good last season as well, with Partey, Xhaka, and Odegaard. Xhaka, has done really good this season. Odegaard went to another level, and Thomas Partey, I believe, went to another level as well. But I think if you upgrade upon Granit Xhaka, you'll see that Arsenal will be pretty hard to beat. It's hard to beat us now. It's going to be really hard to beat us with another midfielder in there that really knows what they're doing. And Declan Rice could be that. I still question what his position is. Like, that's something that I don't know for sure. Like, for England, he plays like more of a DM, but for Moyes, they say he's box to box, but Moyes is so pragmatic that that's not the type of box to box that I'm used to. But he's a really good player. He has the right mentality. He's the right age. He's captain. He's basically been carrying West Ham for a long time. His back is now broken, so, and I think he'd be a really good signing for us. So I think he would take us up another level. We still need more than that, but I'd be more than happy with Declan Rice because that's what Arteta wants. And if Arteta wants Declan Rice, he's rarely wrong, So yeah, I think you can't really look at a midfield of Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and Odegaard and say that Arsenal are slouching. Like, Arsenal look very, very strong with a midfield like that.
Yeah, listen, I've always been someone who rates Declan Rice. I think a lot of people just shit on him because he's English. Let's just call it out for what it is. If he was from a different part of Europe or a different part of the world, he'd get more respect. Because you get this weird group of people. They're on the same spectrum, but they're both the opposite of each other, but the same spectrum. Some that over egg and over index and love off English players too much. And then you get people that do the complete opposite, where for no particular reason other than their passport, they hate on them. And Declan Rice falls into that category. So some people overrate him, and some people or over-index his value, and some people like disregard him as a crap player when he isn't. This guy's got the ability to be the best midfielder at your club inside a season. But he can play Xhaka's role and he can play Partey's role. You could play him in a 3 for some games. You can actually have more rotation. And it's going to be important to add a player like Declan Rice to Arsenal next year because he is... You need deeper... Like, squad depth is a weird word. I don't think you guys need to grow your squad depth in terms of buying squad players anymore. You need to do what I call, top-down approach. You need to add players that can make your first team better, and then it's your current first team players, if they don't meet the standard of the new players, get pushed onto the bench, or vice versa. You need to be looking at overall first team improvement. That will therefore, by default, improve your squad. And Declan Rice is one of those kind of players because, in my opinion, he has the best. As I said, he's got the ability to be the best midfielder at Arsenal. He's sensational. I'd love him at Manchester United, and the fact that you're linked with him kind of annoys me. Like, legitimately, it annoys me. And people say here, like, totally different players. But again, you're getting bogged down in... I know they're different types of players, but they're playing central midfield, and you can only have between 2 to 3 of them in any team at any one time. He has the ability to be the best midfielder at Arsenal. I think he's that good. He just needs to be coached by a manager of a higher standard who plays a more progressive style of football. And if you put him into a team that plays more progressively with better quality players around him, I think Declan Rice will shine. And there's a reason that Arteta's focusing on him now. Arteta so far, how many signings, really main signings, has Arteta got wrong? None.
Really, none.
None of these big signings, I think, have been wrong. Even like you could argue like Vieira hasn't really done so much yet, but I think he will later on down the line. All the big signings have come in and been very successful under Mikel Arteta. So I think from an Arsenal fan's point of view, if you're Arteta in or you back Arteta, you should be excited about this signing. And equally, if you're bringing in a guy that's going to cost 200 grand a week, it also shows a willingness from the owners and the club to go, right, we understand about wage structures and not spending too much, but once you start winning Premier Leagues or challenging for them and you're back in the Champions League and you want to win, that's the going rate of a midfielder. That's the going rate. If you guys try and sign another number 9 in the summer as well, like a top class 9, you ain't bringing in someone top class for less than 200 grand a week. Not, by the way, when you've got Eddie Nketiah on 100 grand a week. They can't come in and be ahead of Eddie Nketiah and not be on 150, 200. So I think Arsenal fans should be enthused by this move. I think it's a brilliant signing. On paper, you've got to see how it plays out. But Arteta's success rate, coupled with how I feel about Declan Rice as a player, this is phenomenal business. And the fact you're starting on it now, I think is very, very positive indeed. Very, very positive.
I'm a big fan of in-league signings. I know some people are like, the Premier League is overrated, but it's not really about what league is better. It's about adaptation. And you want to bring in somebody that's going to step into your first 11. You want them to know the league. I think that works for us. For some teams, it doesn't matter, but for Arsenal, for me, it matters. I think Ben White's a really good example of that. From an Arsenal perspective, and Trossard coming from in-league, those things make a difference, in my opinion. So I think Declan Rice would be the type of marquee signing that you want to bring in when you're really pushing. And I think it's a good time to go after him as well, because Chelsea are in the mud. They would be his number one choice if they were anywhere near the Champions League. And because they're not, I think he would probably opt to come to us instead of them. I know that that's his boyhood club and all that kind of stuff, but the trajectory of a club and the club, what they're going to be like in the next 1 to 3 years is going to be super important. And I don't think you can look at Chelsea and say that their future is so much brighter than ours based on what you're looking at now. So yeah. And the one thing I like about Arteta is when he gets a player, he knows how he's going to use them. And what he's not going to have to worry about is getting to the club and the manager not knowing what to do with him. I think that's a big fear of a lot of players. It's like, do they know how to use me, whatever. And the other thing is he would allow us to be able to use Jorginho more, because as much of a signing as this looks like a stopgap, Arteta effing loves Jorginho. He loves him. And I would not be surprised if you could get another athletic kind of midfielder in there, that you won't see Jorginho, Declan Rice, Odegaard type thing as well. So yeah, he unlocks a lot of opportunities for Arsenal.
He absolutely does. And I think Jorginho, as you say, needs that energy around him. Declan Rice isn't the fastest, like he isn't electric in speed, but he's no slap. I did see someone in a comment earlier say he's no faster than J5. I'm like, that's just BS. But yeah, I do think it's very good business. And there was a comment that came through here that said there's two things. First one said Lokonga did not work, but Lokonga wasn't one of the like big money main first team signings. He was a young player. And by the way, Arsenal may not have signed him if they had to wait a year longer. Go back to the original report from Christophe Terrace, the first journalist to break it. He said Arsenal moved earlier than they wanted to because of other clubs' interest. Arsenal were going to wait till the following summer to buy him, but they were just worried they'd miss out. You know, you could argue maybe coming that year earlier with Porphyry's development, the pressure, whatever else. But that hasn't worked, but it wasn't a main first 11 player, in my opinion. Terry gassing it as if it is done already. That isn't what I'm doing. So you see this consistency with me. I won't say Arsenal are signing a brilliant player and then he joins Liverpool and suddenly I find a reason to make him sound like a bad player. I'm consistent. I'm talking about the potential of the individual. Irrespective of whether Arsenal get it done or not, this is how good I think the player is, my friend. So I think you've got to not misinterpret what I'm saying. I know some content creators do this thing where they'll gas a player when he's linked to their club and then he joins a rival and suddenly they find all the flaws and holes in the individual. I've just got a little bit more integrity than that. Dan here says, should Arsenal go for Mount as well? Will Arteta get Mount back to his best? I've always been a fan of Mount, but he has been poor since last season. Do you want Mason Mount at Arsenal, Jay?
No. The thing about for me is like, I think he'd be perfect for Liverpool, to be honest. I feel like would be a perfect move for him. But the types of wages that he would be getting paid as one of our best players. And from my perspective, he'd be nothing but a rotational option. So no, like I wouldn't. I'd rather just let Vieira develop, to be honest.
Yeah. I think you've also got like Smith Rowe that's going to be given at least another year to prove himself. If you throw Mason Mount into the mix, the question is, where does he fit in then? Because they all kind of take up similar positions on the pitch. You'll have people say different profiles, Terry. They all play similar positions on the pitch. Like there's not, over. It's a bit like with like I've seen people in the last few days arguing over like a City playing with a back three or a back four, and it's like it doesn't really matter. It's about what are their positions when they're defending versus when they're attacking. They're not the same. Like don't over analyze it. They're meant to be kind of fluid in my opinion. But there we go. That's my take on that. In terms of Arsenal, though, Jay. Sorry, let me put that back up. Obviously, we spoke about it at the top of the video. Obviously, you were quite frustrated and worried and concerned after Partey got injured, the loss against City. How impressed were you with the bounce back against Villa, getting those 3 points? And then again, the subsequent mini wobble again from City. 2 games after that, they've led and failed to win. They've shown they're gettable. They've shown again that without KDB on that pitch, nobody can find Haaland with the ball. You must now be feeling and the fact J5 has stepped up, or J20, sorry, Jorginho has stepped up as well. You must now be feeling more confident about winning the league than you maybe did 7 days ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel more confident about the team's ability to have the mental fortitude to get through difficult moments and push through that barrier and get 3 points. We have done it, but never in a situation where the form was so bad. We just lost to Manchester City. It was less than 72 hours before we had to go away from home to Villa. You go 1-0 down, you come back, you go 2-1 down. Like that was a very difficult match to watch in the first half because it did feel like the next 45 minutes was going to kind of define us. And I can look at the body language of our players and kind of sense like, are we good or are we not? And the body language was not good in the first half. Wasn't good when they were coming out either. So I'm very impressed by the turnaround, and I don't think you get that turnaround without Jorginho. I have to say that. I really don't, because he was good from minute 1. And if that had been Sambi or Elneny, I think we lose that game 100%. And so, yeah. And also Saka, there's a lot of talk about Saka. I still don't think he gets the plaudits that he deserves, because this is a 21-year-old that is literally carrying Arsenal in a lot of moments. And I think almost all of his goals have either been an equalizer or the winner this season. So this is not somebody who's stat padding. This is somebody who's scoring goals that actually really matter and turn our games around. And so, yeah, I'm very impressed by the level that Saka's gone to, the way that Jorginho has just kind of taken like a duck to water with Arsenal and the way that we play, and just the overall team spirit. But, you know, going into the Leicester game, you can't forget the first half. You know, I do think that you have to remember that, like, that first half was not good. And I expect, like, if we have really turned around, I expect us to not easily sweep Leicester aside, but for it not to be like a stressful situation the way it was against Aston Villa. You know what I mean? I want us to go back to our away form that we had from before. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but some of our players are definitely living this title race as if they've been there before, and others just need to catch up. And so we'll see where they're at.
Yeah, look, I appreciate all that. I mean, listen, it's a lot easier for me to keep it's not about me keeping faith. It's just about me having an opinion. I'm not emotionally invested in what Arsenal do because I'm not an Arsenal fan. I thought there was a massive overreaction from a lot of Gooners to Partey being injured. And I think that's because I rate Jorginho and always have done. I've never been someone that said a bad player, awful player. Even when people were laughing at him being a Ballon d'Or candidate, I love seeing it because I think players that do his role, like Michael Carrick of old, seem to always be underappreciated. And because they're not doing spectacular things, his shot was pretty spectacular, but because they're not doing spectacular things, it isn't kind of famed. And I think people that are generally fans of the Premier League typically have appetites for screamers and crunching tackles and like players that can pluck the ball out the sky like Zidane did. Those kind of three things are always like, oh yeah, that makes you a baller. Far more than someone who can control the tempo of a game, can break lines with his passing. It's kind of subtle. Nobody really notices it, but it's really important. I was disappointed to see Arsenal fans concede after losing to City because you're ignoring what City have been all season. And that is an inconsistent team in performances. And your opinions and predictions should be based on performance levels of teams, especially when you're predicting within a season. In the summer, everyone makes their pre-season predictions for the league. Most people's predictions inside 10 games should change because you're seeing those teams in action. And City this year have been inconsistent, and if they're not finding Haaland or he's not scoring, they struggle to see out games. And his form since the World Cup's been good, but it hasn't been the guy that scored 30-odd goals in the opening third of the season. He hasn't dried up. That would be the wrong way to describe it, but he isn't as potent right now. KDB, when fit's been playing well, but Grealish still flat as to deceive for me. Mahrez has scored some goals, but isn't at his consistent best. Bernardo Silva and Gundogan aren't chipping in with goals like they were consistently 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they're gettable in games. The fact that how they didn't beat Nottingham Forest, again, if they were a bigger club with a bigger fan base, therefore the media would get more traction online, that would have been scientifically, sort of surgically, what's the word when you pick something apart? With a scalpel, you guys do it in your science classes in America. We don't do it here. What's it called when you dissect?
Yeah.
It would have been dissected. The fact they could not close out them. Same thing happened against Leipzig. Same thing happened against Man United. In the space of 4 weeks, 3 times they've led games and ended up on the losing or not the winning side. Any other club gets ripped apart for that. They don't. So I sort of looked at Arsenal and thought to myself, you haven't mathematically won the league yet, and I never believed it. I still think City have got a chance. But the reason that I still make you favourites and I still kept you as favourites after losing to City was I don't look at this City team as a club and as a side right now that can go and win 8, 9, 10 on the bounce. Nor will Arsenal between now. I don't think you're going to win the next 10 games, but I don't believe City will either. City last year, maybe. City the year, but even City last year, they had a 12-point lead over Liverpool, and they almost lost it. They're gettable. Doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're gettable. And I think the way you beat Villa, the way they've dropped points, again this weekend, you beat Leicester. Your next Premier League game is Everton, I believe, the game in hand. You reinstill that 5-point gap, and the mental fragility, sort of the fragile mentality right now at City, I think we'll see you through until the end of the season. I really do.
I mean, I understand, like, you know, making predictions based on what's going on right now. You know, I do feel like you have to mix it together with what's gone on in the past as well. You know, I do think that that comes in. And I feel like I'd be silly not to think that Manchester City can turn it on. But you're right, like they haven't actually turned it on yet. So I get that. But I mean, yesterday's result, I think, helps us a little bit. Like, it doesn't really, but I think Manchester City, like the longer that they stay in the Champions League, the better as well, because they have to win it and it gives them more fixtures and stuff like that. And if they feel like, you know, if they drop more points and we continue to play well, they may just kind of not drop away per se, but you know that at some point they're going to start really looking at the Champions League. So yeah, that's exciting. I think Arsenal have a really good chance of winning it. And as long as we stay top, like we stay top, and then, you know, we'll get Jesus back as well soon, we have a really, really good chance of doing it, you know, so we'll see how everything unfolds.
No, I understand that. And like I've said on many occasions, I've not said anywhere that City cannot win it. It's impossible. I just feel that, and again, I'm going to call you out on this because I've got to be fair. It's straight facts. We sat here just over a week ago. It was Wednesday last week we did the show. And you said, that's it, parties that will lose tonight, title's over. You completely wrote Arsenal off. And I get you were emotional. I understand that. After the game, no, that's it. It's done. And I understand that City in the past have gone on these great runs. But I'm a big fight fan, you know. You know I like my fighting, both MMA and boxing. And when a fighter is slightly over the hill or past their best, like Conor McGregor's about to return in MMA, he probably still has the power to knock out fighters. But does he have the same will and unbreakable spirit as he did 5, 6, 7 years ago when he was arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? The jury's out on that. And I think that makes everybody more confident of beating him because he isn't the same person he was. And I don't think this City team are the same City team of a couple of years ago. That doesn't mean, though, you're right. You shouldn't sit there and go, that's it. They're no threat, because that's stupid as well. But it's that kind of that resignation after losing one game. I thought, come on, man, you've got more. I mean, the Arsenal team proved they've got more fight than that, and I thought that was really interesting. I still think you're going to win the league from this point, but as I've said all along, I have not predicted at any point. I don't believe that you're going to run away with it. I don't think you're going to win it with these. I don't think you're going to win it by 10, 12, 15 points. But I do believe you'll come out as winners.
I know, I get that. And like a lot of people have been like, oh my God, you wrote us off after just one game. It's not one game. It really wasn't. It was what happened last season when the fire really hit us and we battled top 4. And then we had a bad run of games. We had an opportunity to play well against Manchester City and we didn't. And from there, I mean, it was 45 minutes against Aston Villa and people had already written their drafts about how we had bottled it. So I get that 45 minutes, and a lot of this is like results based, you know, analysis. Now it's like, well, you won that game, so you were wrong about everything. But we were teetering even in that first half. So I get it, but like I've lived this Arsenal experience for a long time. I haven't seen an Arsenal team back against the wall in a title race not fall off in February. I haven't. Like,
no, and I totally get that.
So it just wasn't one game, just the Manchester City. And then I think a lot of people felt the same about the Manchester City game as well, that it was gonna be the one that, like, I do think if we had won that game as well, like we'd be in such a good position because that confidence. But I would have never thought that they wouldn't have gained that confidence from that match. That's what I didn't count on in terms of Manchester City. So I did get that part wrong.
No, and that element I understand. I just think it's the and I get why people will come for you as well. They're like, you can't write us off the one thing. I also understand where you're coming from. We have Arsenal's tradition of collapsing in February to March time. You know, that went on for so many bloody years. It was unbelievable. And then you'd hit like April to the end of May, you'd look scintillating again. The whole summer, Arsenal fans think, right, next year's our year, and it never happened. So I do get that kind of situation. There's a super chat here that says, if United win, I think he means tonight, and at some point play Arsenal in the Europa, do you think that may impact the title race?
I don't know. Because the thing about the title race...
Go on. Let me premise that with, you think Man United are in the title race, so if we play each other, we can't play each other in the last six, in the next round. That's still not, it's 2 rounds further on in the Europa League. So if we get each other in the Europa League, how do you think that will impact the title race, which you're including United in?
I don't know, because I think a lot of what happens in the title race in terms of Manchester United and Arsenal, I think is a lot of it has to do with what happens in these next 3 games for Arsenal. I think if we go out and we beat Leicester and Bournemouth and Everton, we win that game in hand and we're clear of you by like 14 points. I think psychologically, even if you guys do win the Carabao Cup or whatever, like that's a big feat. You know, you guys can't drop any points really if we get maximum points in that part. And you guys have Liverpool, as bad as they are, I still think going to Anfield is difficult. So I think that's more important than like if we meet each other in Europa League. But let's say that we meet each other in Europa League and it's close and Manchester United, you know, you guys beat us. Maybe psychologically, you know, that would hurt Arsenal and Manchester United would feel like they could go forward. But the league and cup competitions for me are so different that like Arsenal have been so good at like being able to 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, even though we've been going out of these, you know, cup competitions. So from my perspective, I'm not really sure if it would impact it so much because Arsenal have been really good at getting those 3 points in the league and we know it's different. But I'm sure you think that like if you guys were to beat us in Europa, then that would psychologically get into our head and, you know, maybe something like that. I don't know.
And no. Yes and no. It depends mathematically on where we are when we play you. So we can't get you in the next round. So it wouldn't be until near the end of March, early April when we play you in the Europa League if we were to draw you and if we're both in the competition. You're right. This is why I've not said we're in a title race. Because I think if you win your next 3 games before we kick a ball again in the Premier League and you're 14 points clear, yes, we'll have 1 game, maybe 2 games in hand when we kick off against Liverpool. But if we don't beat Liverpool, we'll be 14 points behind you with 1 game in hand. And psychologically, I just don't see there being from that point a 15-point swing because you guys will only have 12 games left. And that basically means you've got to lose nearly half of them. And I don't think that's going to happen. So mathematically, we can do it. But realistically, no. However, if you only win 1 of your next 3 games and we have 2 games in hand and we win them and we're point or 2 behind you, and there's nothing really separating City, Man United, and Arsenal, and we play each other in Europa League games and we beat you and knock you out, then it could have a psychological edge. And equally, if you beat us and knock us out, it could have a psychological edge for you because that winning feeling, that's why I want to win the Carabao Cup so much this weekend. Fergie spoke about this so much when we won the FA Cup in 91, when we won the Cup Winners' Cup in 92. And he said very famously after the Cup Winners' Cup in 92, and the press crucified him for it, the team's ready to win the league now. He said in books and in documentaries since, he just felt that the team had learned how to win, how to get through adversity, how to handle criticism and become champions, and how to win trophies, and it sees them through. And I think if we win Carabao Cups and if we're within a handful of points of Arsenal with 5-6 games to go, and we were able to outplay you maybe and knock you out of another tournament, it could, of course, have a knock-on effect, especially depending on whose squad's doing what. It's a little like you mentioned with City. I think City drawing last night is massive for Arsenal in the title race. Because if they did what they should have done last night, City, and gone on to win that game 2 or 3-0, it meant they could have gone a bit easier in the return leg. But now they've got to go full throttle in a midweek game before Arsenal ain't going to have a midweek game that week. So that's another week where Arsenal get a 4 weeks rest, training for their match. City can't focus on the Premier League. They've got to focus on the Champions League in a very hard tie against RB Leipzig at home. So, listen, as you say, maybe Man United get knocked out tonight by Barcelona and Arsenal continue in the Europa League. That might help us. There's so many permutations. So I think to answer this super chat honestly, let's see where Man United and Arsenal are in terms of distance between each other if and when we play one another. Personally, I want the Europa League final to be Man United Arsenal. I don't want to play them before that. I want it to be the final because I want to have a bet. I think a Man United Arsenal Europa League final gets more global views than the Champions League final, whoever's in it. Whoever's in it, in my opinion. And I want to test that theory. So I want it to be the main final. Comment here from Heartbeat says, do you think Saka should have been sent off against Villa?
Are you smoking? No. Be for real. It was the follow through. He went after the ball. He hit the ball. So no, like, be for real. No.
I listen. I don't think Sabitzer's was a red card because there was no follow through. Although it was higher, it was like touching off. And Saka's could have been a yellow card in real time. I've seen them given, but a red card, absolutely not. It was very low on the leg as well. It wasn't shin or knee height. So yeah, for me, no, not a red card in my opinion. Both, by the way, should have been yellow cards. It's a bit of one as well. Hey guys, it's just me, or does it seem like we aren't concentrating on signing a left-footed right winger enough a backup? Well, the reports come out today that you bid 70 million for Rafinha. Is Rafinha left-footed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you bid for him again in January, reportedly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that there's an abundance of left wingers, but there's not a lot of right wingers, not left-footed right wingers that are any good. So there's like Rafinha, and then there's like Diaby. There's very few. And I just don't think you can just bring in any old body. It has to be somebody that's going to legitimately give Saka a run for his money. And so, and Arteta, I know, is obsessed with Rafinha. So I'm not surprised that we went in for him again. Probably not going to get him because he's important to Barcelona, but we will get one in the summer. I just wonder who it'll be. It's a shame that Pedro Neto has been injured so much. I thought he would have been perfect as well. So we'll see, but it's something that I know it's going to happen in the summer, but you can't just bring in anybody. You know, there's a lot of players out there, but some of them are average, you know, and there's just not a lot of good right wingers that are left-footed. There's not a lot.
Yeah, it's a very hard position to recruit for. I was thinking about it with Man United the other day, Gan. You know, we've got Anthony and we've got Sancho. Sancho's actually right-footed. He doesn't go on the left. It's kind of like, but when you think about the world of football, like there's loads of players that are great on the left. It's harder on the other side. It's much harder to find a player that can do it. So I agree. How about we replace Barca? Everyone will be happy. I don't know what you mean, Nelson. That doesn't make any sense to me, G. Contextualize that for me. I'll get out of here. Sabitzer tried doing a Roy Keane on face. Yeah, but he didn't know, did he? Like the still shot of it on his knee looks horrendous. But when you watch it, Roy Keane went right through the man's knee and pretty much ended the career of Haaland. Sabitzer pulled his leg away instantly. It honestly, like, it weren't as bad as people are trying to make it out. The screen, that's one of those things where the screenshot. Do you know the one where Richarlison kind of hit out at Ramsdale? He should have touched him, but the screenshot made it look like he really hit him. And in reality, it was a touch. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, people keep doing that to Casemiro at the minute. They keep grabbing other pictures, screenshots of people like holding someone around the neck. All the screenshots look awful, like people are being strangled. You watch it in real time and you're like, he's just holding him. It's not really a thing, but yeah, not a red card for me, in my opinion. And VAR agreed. And the review system afterward, everybody agreed. There's no follow through. It's not a red card. He pulled his leg away, yeah, after all right, but he did. But he didn't hurt. He didn't go through him. You can't pull your leg away after going through someone. That doesn't make sense. That makes sense. But there we go. I hope. Oh wow, look at this. I hope Rashford gets injured. Now, Gunnar SJ. You know, when you do this kind of thing, that's when the football gods will generally punish your club. You know, like the people that celebrated Casemiro being missing, lo and behold, within a few games, you lose your midfielder. Like that, I always, the reason I never celebrate these things is because I always feel like I bring bad karma on my club. Like, think about that. Like, you will bring bad luck to your club thinking like that, my bro. You'll bring bad luck to your football club. I wouldn't do it. Sorry to take this off conversation. But what about Adeyemi? Could he possibly be converted to a right winger?
Honestly, I don't know. This position is so specific, and I'm not sure if we need to be converting players into that position to fit the requirements. So he's like a really good player. But I would just say, like, let's just wait into the summer and see what Arsenal do. They will bring in somebody, but it might be somebody out of left field, you know, somebody that we haven't really thought about before.
Yeah, it may be. It may be. And I think you guys would trust your manager on that. Listen, he is a very talented looking footballer. I haven't seen him play too much. I don't sit there and watch the Bundesliga, but I've watched him in a handful of games, and there's a player in there, certainly a player in there of some good stature. But how old is he? I was looking at 21. I just feel like just give him another year or two where he is. Don't take him away too soon. Let him keep developing his game, as it were. Viewers, I want to say a big thank you to each and every single one of you that has tuned in today. It means a great deal to us. We are live after Manchester United versus Barcelona tonight, so please make sure you're tuning in. This stream will also take you straight through to tomorrow night's Top 6 show. So get across to our homepage now, bookmark it, set a notification. We're live at 6 p.m. tomorrow for the Top 6 show. Jess, always a pleasure to speak to you. It genuinely is. Viewers, thank you very much. My super chatters, you're amazing. My members, you're brilliant. And everybody who's hit the like button, I love you very, very much indeed. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very